Hello, everyone. My name is Kate, and I'm a financial technology advisor here at Hyperbots. Today, I'm thrilled to have Jon Naseath with me. Hey, Jon, how are you doing?
Hey, Kate, doing good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. So, Jon is the COO at Cantu Capital Inc. Today, Jon and I will be discussing the complexities of California's sales tax regulations and how companies can stay compliant. Let's dive right in.
Yeah,
Coming to the first question, Jon, can you provide an overview of California's sales tax rules, particularly on which goods and services are taxable and which are exempt?
sure. And I'll just start by saying that California is a fun place to do business. There's always lots of different regulatory considerations, and the more the government tries to help, in many ways, it just becomes more complicated for accounting, and a lot of times that turns into more money. Anyway, so I'll get off my soapbox, but sure. So California sales tax rules are complex, and the main example here that's applicable is that most tangible goods are taxable, like typically electronics, clothing, vehicles, your normal physical products, as an example. But essential items like groceries, prescription medicines are exempt. So they've wanted to make it so that people can buy the food they need and have kind of a influenced benefit on those versus other things. And so, like many jurisdictions, California is choosing tax policy based on trying to influence behavior. So they prepared foods, restaurants is taxable, but unprepared foods is not. So you'll go into a restaurant, you've probably seen this, where you'll go into a restaurant and they're asking, are you going to eat this here or are you taking this? And depending on what you're taking, different tax things can be applied. It gets pretty complicated. Services are not typically taxed unless they involve creating or modifying a tangible good. And for example, repairing or services on appliances are taxed because they're a service and they involve a tangible outcome of a change. So it's a little complicated, like it is. But to be fair, California is not unique. I've done business in China where we had some fun things figuring out similar complexities. India, Brazil is everyone knows Brazil's a great fun place to do tax challenges and figure things out there. So just the concept of having your local jurisdiction, your state or regional government, and then your federal government. We'll be picking on California today, but if any California regulators are listening, it's not you, it's just you're our favorite example to talk about. So
Understood. Moving on, how does California's sales tax rate vary across different jurisdictions?
sure. So California has their base sales tax rate of like 7.25%, but then the local cities or counties or districts will add their additional rates on top of that. So it can fluctuate a lot based on where you're living. Los Angeles, Santa Monica, kind of down in I'll say the South, have a combined rate of 10.25%. In contrast, different areas that are more rural, like Lassen counties, only apply a state minimum tax. So I'm from California. My dad was from Lassen County. I grew up down in San Diego, and we always called Los Angeles the North. Anything north of San Diego is Northern California. And so I forgive my references to regional locations. But yeah, you have your local taxes and you have your state tax. I'll also call out gasoline. Gasoline taxes are piled on everywhere, and it's ridiculous in California.
I understand. So, how frequently do these sales tax rates change, and what triggers these changes?
Yeah, they change too often, and it's as soon as rules and regulators determine that they can find a new way to tax more money, they'll drop a tax on you. So the other trick is how to know when it's actually in place, because there might be in the news about a tax that's coming, or they might even approve a tax that's coming, but it doesn't go into effect until a later date. Quarterly, annually, they can change. Is usually they'll change within the quarter or a new fiscal year. It's always fun when the new year comes. Like we're about to have a new year in California, and every news cycle says, "Here's the new laws that are coming in place. Here's the new taxes. You're welcome." And it's common in urban areas where local governments want to adjust the taxes to try to get a little bit more out and balance, well, not really balance, but just get more money for their pet projects. I'm not jaded, but this is a touchy subject.
That's a very interesting point. So, Jon, what challenges do businesses face in keeping up with these changing sales tax rates?
I'll generically say that when you're in a jurisdiction that is adding a lot of taxes and a lot of regulations, it's hard. To be fair, other countries and other areas are more complicated than California. So just staying on top and being consistent, making sure that you're not breaking a rule or missing a tax obligation is critical, because they love to audit you, right? If something's off, that you'll get an audit and you'll have to work through it. And they like to go back and look historically. So tax rates across hundreds of local jurisdictions where you're doing business can change independently and aggressively. So it's challenging to keep track of things. And then where you're doing business in all these different areas and all the different transaction volumes, and if you hit different triggers, it's a different tax rate in a different area. If you're trying to track all that manually, and then this becomes a resource intensive project. If you're trying to, again, do it manually, it can lead to costly mistakes. And the government usually just wants to see that you have a process in place, that you are managing it, even if your numbers end up being different than what they think the number should be. If you can show that you have good process, good systems of how you're managing it, then you can usually work through and resolve if there were some disagreements on how much should have been paid. If you just ignore it, that's when they're watching for people who are just ignoring it and clearly are off, and then they'll give you penalties and hit you up pretty hard.
It does make a lot of sense. So, where can companies find reliable information on California sales tax rates and any recent updates?
So websites obviously is the only option there, because it has to be live in real time. In California, there's the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration, CDTFA, and it's the primary source for current sales tax rates and regulatory changes. It provides a city and county tax rate lookup tool, which is updated quarterly. Other reliable resources include tax compliance platforms that take that data and make it available for you. Hyperbots is a great example. There's also one that's Avalara's AvaTax. These offer real-time rate calculations and compliance resources tailored by businesses operating in multiple jurisdictions. So, you're not left just trying to do it from the website and do it manually. There are tools, again, like Hyperbots, that can help you do it.
So, John, can you give me an example of how a business might use these resources to stay compliant?
So let's say, for example, a retail company operates in multiple California cities. So I'll pick again on Carlsbad, where I grew up, San Francisco Bay Area, where I lived for a long time, and let's say Mount Lassen area, Lassen County, where I also have family. They could use Hyperbots or Avalara to automatically apply the correct tax rates based on each location. These tools are consistently updating the tax rates, so you don't really have to think about it. The company doesn't have to manually check each quarter. Certainly there's need for controls and audits to verify things, but if the system's taken care of and it's plugged in right, it should run for you. A new tax rate is applied for a specific zip code, then these tools are going to adjust the transactions in real time and feed the right information into your ERP, reducing the risk of under or over collecting of tax.
That was a fantastic example. Coming to a more interesting question, how can AI help businesses manage these complexities, especially in a state like California with high tax variability?
Yeah, so when you've got just massive amount of data changing in location, by time, the transactions that are happening, the type of product, is it taxable, is it not? There's just too much to, I'll say, accurately and consistently rely on. The tools will help, but AI really removes a lot of the manual steps that would still be left in there. So AI can help with monitoring, with updating, applying the sales tax rates automatically. And so tools, again, like Hyperbots, can track the CDTFA updates, notify the finance team of changes. It could help draft communications if you got to manage something and resolve an issue that's come up. They can automatically calculate the rates based on the zip codes and the type of product, avoid human error. And so companies that have high transaction volumes and complex tax requirements across multiple jurisdictions can really kind of leverage the AI to help manage and mitigate the risks.
That was an impressive point. We have almost reached the end of our discussion today. So the last question for today is, are there any specific AI tools or features that you would recommend for managing sales tax compliance?
Recommend, yes. And also there's only so many out there. It's kind of a niche area. A lot of tools that you might expect to do it don't. So I just see who can help you. And the examples I would give that I'm familiar with are Hyperbots and Ava Tax from Avalara. They handle it well. They use AI to calculate tax rates dynamically and keep things tied together. These also integrate directly with your ERP, is what the requirement you're looking for. And so we can automatically make sure that your timing and your reporting and filing are all compliant and follow the local tax requirements. The key benefit is that these tools provide real-time updates and can alert you as needed. Fix your core operations so that you're doing things with the tax rates as applicable. If anybody knows of other tools, put a comment in the video down below or something. But there really aren't that many that can do this. And so Hyperbots is a great example to focus on.
And with that, we have reached the end of our discussion today. Thank you so much, Jon, for joining us and sharing your insights on managing California's complex sales tax environment and how AI is making compliance easier for businesses. I'll see you later. Have a great day. Thank you so much.